everyone is at a different stage of their health journey, and so the same recommendations don't apply to all of us, right? So in today's video, I'm going to talk about, basically I'm going to break down what you need to focus on depending on which stage of your health journey you're in. And the stages are going to be I'm talking about beginners level, mid-level, and higher level, right? So let's dive right in on what you should focus on at each of these stages of your health journey. So for the beginner stage, here you're at like 1 to 2 out of 10, right? So you basically you don't know what to do, right? You know you're eating fast food all the time, you're buying food all the time, junk foods, lots of sweetened drinks, sodas, etc. And you've been told, or you know in your heart, that you need to do better, and you just have no clue where to start. Where do you start when you are a beginner with the health journey? My suggestion is that you focus on one thing, and the one thing that I recommend that you focus on is added sugar. Why added sugar? Because reducing added sugar gives you the best bang for your buck, so to speak. It's the one thing that you're going to do and feel the most dramatic effects, okay? So cutting down added sugar, you're going to have better energy, you're going to sleep better, you're going to be less achy, and when you actually experience improvements, like tangible improvements that you can feel, you might feel your waist circumference even go down, like you lose some inches on your waist. And when you see benefits, see positive effects, that actually motivates you to keep going, and also to now start learning, hey, what else can I do to achieve improved health and well-being, right? So start with sugar, specifically added sugar. So we're not talking about the sugar that's naturally occurring in fruits and so on and so forth, right? Added sugar. Now the daily recommendation, so the recommended daily allowance of sugar is 6 teaspoons per day, added sugar, right? Which is the same as 24 grams, because every 1 teaspoon is equal to 4 grams of sugar. And so we should all, diabetic or not, we should all strive to have no more than 6 teaspoons or 24 grams of sugar per day, right? Reduce your added sugar. Sugar basically is the biggest health killer. Sugar, of all the different things that we can all stand to decrease, sugar is the one that's the biggest health killer. And so that is why I say focus on that one thing. Don't overwhelm yourself about different keto and whatever fad diets and things like that. Just focus on sugar, right? And then you start feeling better. Literally, some people start feeling better within days, but certainly within weeks, you're expected to start feeling better, right? So that means paying attention to labels, but just that one thing on a label, it'll have carbs, and then under that, it'll have including added sugar, and then it'll specify how many grams of added sugar, and that's what you want to pay attention to. Another thing you have to pay attention to as well is that this on the label added sugar is per serving. So when it comes to things like cookies and so on, one serving, if you look at the label, it might be one cookie. And most of the times we cannot eat just one cookie if we start eating these things, because they're designed for you to keep eating and eating and eating, right? So you have to pay attention, what's the serving size, and depending on how many servings you choose to have, multiply that the number of grams of sugar by that, so you can see what your daily allowance is, and then keep a tally as the day goes by, so that you know, okay, I'm already at 20 grams, I only have space for 4 more grams of sugar before I get to my limit, right? And you can gradually get down, like wean yourself off depending on how much added sugar you are taking, right? And then pay attention to your snacks, because if you're getting a lot of your added sugar from snacks, then you want to start replacing those sweetened snacks with non-sweet snacks. My favorite being nuts of all types. I love raw nuts. That's my snack most days, okay? So that's beginner level. Focus on one thing, being sugar. Now, mid-level. At the mid-level, you're like 4 to 5 out of 10, and you have an idea of healthy eating. You buy whole grain foods, whole grain bread, you eat brown rice, you probably cook several of your meals at home, if not maybe most, right? And you probably eat a lot of salads as well. But the problem with you at this mid-level, why you might not be really achieving or getting as close to your goals as you would like, achieving your health goals as much as you would like, is that you are not consistent. You lack consistency, right? And the one thing that I think really dramatically helps you to get better with consistency is having a plan. specifically a written plan. Have a written meal plan. Know what you're eating at all times. Every day you should know what you're eating, breakfast, lunch, dinner, depending on how many of these meals you eat. You should even have an idea of what you're having for snacks, what your snacks are as well, right? If you are, it doesn't mean you can't go out, but you should include in your meal plan the days that you're planning to eat out. Maybe you have on Tuesdays, you eat out with, your friends at work. Maybe on Friday evenings, you go for dinner with your family, or maybe on Saturdays at lunchtime, you go out with your family. Slot those in as well so that you know, okay, these are the days we're eating out. We don't have to worry about meals, right? The good thing about having a meal plan is that it helps you to know what you're going to buy in the supermarket, right? So you have to make sure you stock up on salmon in the freezer because you're gonna have salmon every Sunday. You need to make sure you have several cans of sardines because maybe you're gonna have cans of sardines on some of the days in the evenings during the week. So it just helps you to make sure everything is stocked, and then all you have to do the day before, the night before, you glance at your meal plan, which should be displayed in a place where everybody can see it. So in our house, we have it on our fridge, and you look and say, okay, this is what we're having tomorrow, so we're going to prepare these things, get these things out, etc. And so you are not at the last minute struggling and scrambling and trying to figure out what you're going to eat, by which time you're so hungry that you follow the path of least resistance through the fast food drive-through, and you get something that's going to kind of set you back, and you keep doing that over and over again, and you lose all the gains that you've had, right? So for level 2, mid-level, rather, you at about 4 to 5 out of 10 on the scale of your health journey, right? And your problem is that you are not consistent, and you're not consistent because you do not have a plan, right? A good written plan. Now, the third level is the higher level. So at this level, you're maybe like 8, almost 9 out of 10. Well, maybe let's say 8. Nobody's perfect. Like nobody's 10 out of 10. I'm not 10 out of 10. So anyway, you're like 8 out of 10. And so you're doing pretty good. You're eating mostly whole food. So you don't eat hardly eat anything processed. You're doing organic. So you're trying to minimize toxins, non-GMO, and you have salads and things like that. But you are basically at a standstill with your weight loss. Like you want to lose weight, or you want to feel better, like your energy is still not quite there. You just not quite like feeling like the best ever that you can feel, right? And so at this stage, when you're kind of stuck, there's a strong chance that you are stuck because you have insulin levels in your body that are too high. Your insulin levels are too high. And once you are high on insulin, right, like chronically, a lot of people have chronically high insulin, like you suffer from chronic sort of insulin resistance, some of these chronic high levels over the years and years. And when your insulin levels are chronically high, it means that you're kind of always in fat storage mode, right? Or certainly you just don't get to be in like significant fat burning mode, because once insulin is high, it's going to be telling the body store excess glucose, store, right? And if you're in storage mode, you cannot at the same time be in fat burning mode. And so this is probably your problem. And the reason why you probably stay in high insulin mode is because you might be having an imbalance of starches, carbs compared to the other foods. So even though everything is organic and whole, unprocessed and so on, it's probably still too much starch in your meals, right? And so because of all this starch, breaks straight down to glucose and you have high insulin levels. What do you do in this case? I suggest that you reserve the starchiest meal for the middle of the day. So you want to narrow that window of insulin triggering. You want insulin to be triggered in a narrow window, maybe like 6 hours or less, depending on how strict you can be, right? So lunchtime, about midday, right? So it means that for breakfast, you're going to have a meal that is very low on starch. So you're not going to be having a glucose and insulin spike early in the morning. You have your lunch, and then after lunch for dinner time, you again have a meal that is very low starch, right? So you're not going to be having a high sort of insulin trigger and going to bed with high insulin levels, which would be you're going to bed in fat storage mode, right? So if you do that, narrow the window, overnight you are going to be low insulin because you're not eating, so you're fasting, right? So overnight you're low. Then coming into the morning, you stay relatively low depending on your choice, and I suggest you choose something that's very, very low stat. So you can choose like omelette, and you can add some vegetables to the omelette, right? So have a veggie omelette, so that's low stat, right? And so you're not going to have a high spike, so you stay low. Then at lunch you might have, you know, something, you might have your starch, maybe, I don't know, like lentil pasta or black rice or whatever, right, at lunchtime. So you have a bit more starch at lunchtime, or you might have some fruit and so on, right? So in that narrow window, 4 to 6 hours, that's when it goes up and then comes back down again. Dinner time, you have something low on the starch, maybe like fish like sardines or some salmon and salad, right? So you're not going to have a high peak. And so you basically, this is noon, you come up to your peak, right? This is when you have your insulin trigger, which is maybe 4 to 6 hours, but the rest of the time it's nice low insulin levels, and so your body can be in fat storage mode for those long, maybe 18, 20 hours depending, right? And so you can end up, your body can be in fat burning mode, and so you're able to kind of burn off some of the energy and get closer to your goals, right? So, you know, that's kind of where I see the problem. For the high level people, you really have come a long way, you've done well, but you're kind of stuck. And to me, this sort of way where you kind of reserve the starch for a narrow window in the middle of the day, to me is the next best thing to intermittent fasting. We know intermittent fasting absolutely works, but a lot of us are just not able to fast like that. Like even me, like I don't know, I just don't want to do it, right? And maybe I don't need to, maybe because I'm on the weight, you know, by definition. But yeah, most of us don't want to fast, and so the next best thing is to maintain low starches most of the day and reserve the starch for a narrow window, rather than be eating starch every 3-4 hours, having starchy snacks, sweet snacks, and so on. Okay, so those are basically that's basically my suggestion as to how to be successful at each level of your health journey. Beginner level, start with one thing. Don't overwhelm yourself by trying to focus on too many things. Start with one thing, reduce added sugar. Mid-level, you're probably not consistent and you need a written plan. And then the higher level, you're doing really good, but you're at a standstill and you need to keep whatever the starch as much as you can, eat those within a more narrow window, and then the other meals can be like low starch, and you can have the protein and vegetables and healthy fats. Okay, I hope you all found this super helpful. A lot of times you just don't know where to start, and I hope with this little breakdown you can sort of, for your situation, your level, sort of decide like where to start. Because a lot of times we're stuck because we don't know where to start, and when you're stuck you end up doing nothing. So this little breakdown is to help you to actually do something, right? And while I'm at it, I might as well tell you about my challenge that starts next week. The Eat More, Weigh Less challenge starts next week, and this challenge is for any of you who essentially you want to figure out how to eat better so that you can get the energy you need to have to do the work you have to do to play with your children. You want to be able to sort of achieve, you know, get closer to the body you want so you can have that confidence, self-confidence, self-esteem, be happy in your relationships. Because let's face it, as much as, you know, we say, oh, we shouldn't be superficial, it's not all about looks. I know a lot of you are having issues with self-confidence, and especially it's affecting your relationships. And I know it because you all have told me, right? So this is for you, to help you regain that self-esteem and confidence. And also for people, those of you who might just be taking medications and you really want to get off, like, you know, you can get off some of these prescription medications, and you know your doctor has told you eat better, but you just don't know what does eating better mean, right? And so you want to participate in this challenge to learn what it means to eat better, so you can eventually get off prescription medications, which really and truly, frankly, treat symptoms and not the root cause. The root cause of most diseases is the foods that we are eating. And so in this challenge, you're going to learn the adjustments that you can make to the way you eat. And we're not necessarily talking about totally eliminating anything. I don't believe in eliminating anything, right? But you just have to know how to eat them, when to eat them, and essentially do good most of the time so that you can afford to splurge on special occasions. So if this challenge sounds like something that you would benefit from, then click the link and check it out and register for the challenge, which is a live 5-day challenge starting Monday, 8th August. Check the link below. Have a good one.